Dear ITC friends, good afternoon. As promised, I come today to our usual YouTube video. And this time I would like to recap what we said in the other previous videos, which is how to prepare to try the contact with another dimension, so we are told by our communicators, through the EVP method. Before I proceed, let me tell you that I receive countless questions from people from different places in the world saying they are very interested in receiving the direct radio voices. I have said over and over again that there is no specific protocol for the direct radio voices, except to have radios, of course. Otherwise it would be something else. Direct water voices, for instance, if you experiment with water, but since it is voices that come from the radio, so radios. Therefore, if you are interested in eventually receiving the direct radio voices, so use radios, apparently, preferably in the shortwave, in between stations where there are no normal radio emissions whatsoever. And this is the only requisite, because it really appears that we are not responsible. I mean, we here on the earth, we are not responsible, at least visibly, for the direct radio voices. Yes, it seems that some operators are more suited than others, but in general anybody can aim at these direct radio voices contacts if they experiment for the EVPs. In Luxembourg or Adolphomes, I do not recall which one exactly, the communicator said that the microphone contacts, that is, the EVP experiments, are an important condition for them to work with that specific operator, possibly through the direct radio voices. And there is nothing else that I may tell you about this. So, since the experiments with the direct radio voices have been the basis of all direct radio voice operators, so Marcello Bacci, the couple Maggie and Jules Maggie and Jules Arschfischbach in Luxembourg, or Adolphomes in Revenish, and possibly others. I know a few of people who are not known who also receive or received the direct radio voices, but they all started by the EVP experimentation. So, recapping what we said in previous videos, what do? You start by selecting a place for your sessions. This can be in your house, at a friend's house, or your office, preferably inside. Why? Because there are no external noises, uncontrolled noises that might disturb your recording. So select a quiet place in your house or some acquaintance's house, and where there are no noises that come and you get confused when you afterwards listen to the playback and do your experiments there, preferably in the same place always, but it doesn't have to be so, but it's preferable, at least at the beginning. And also with the same schedule, same days of the week, same hours. But if you cannot use these hours or these days, do not worry. Whenever you can is all right. Sorry, and then you select your source of noise. It can be any noise, as I've said before, but if it is radio noise, because you are all, everybody I know, because they write me, they are all interested in receiving the direct radio voices. Thus, so use radios, preferably in shortwave, but it doesn't have to be in shortwave, because I recall Friedrich Jürgensen, he didn't use the shortwave, he used the medium wave, 1460 kilohertz. Or Dr. Konstantin Raudiva, he didn't use the shortwave, he used medium wave. So any radio in between stations where there is no human voice. This means that no radio emissions get into that point where you have tuned your radius to, because otherwise you will not know for sure what is anomalous and what is not. And then what you do, you sit down, you try to get relaxed, quiet. You ask your questions, give 1 to 2 minutes between each question. You make 5 or 6 questions. At the end of it, you thank your communicators, those who are listening to you. They certainly are listening to you, but they may not be able to speak. That's another thing that you must keep in mind. Not always our communicators may speak, and I use the verb may because that's exactly what I mean. I mean, they need a permission to communicate. So this has been said since the first registered contacts, if I would say, by Oscar Dargonel in Brazil, the Portuguese-Brazilian experimenter, who recorded the first communications, this time through the telephone, with the world where the deceased tell us they live. So you thank your communicators and you finish your session of that day. Of course, as we saw in previous videos, you should have a log where you write down everything that happens. And if you can write down your questions, please do. If you can't, it's all right. They will be recorded on whatever means you are using. Digital, analog, whatever. Computer, a recorder, whatever. But if you write them down, it is double check that there is not a word there that you did not say and appears. Because I will tell you something else. There is the possibility that the anomalous voice resembles your own voice. This happened to me at the beginning. And at the time I knew Professor Senkowski. I called him on the telephone. I told him what was happening, that not all, some of the voices resembled my own voice, and he laughed and said, "Don't worry, that is something that happens." So the voice might resemble your own voice and still be anomalous. Why? Because they probably used phonemes or copied the phonemes you uttered or whatever. I really do not know. If I knew, I would know a lot, but we do not know. Unfortunately, we do not know. Because those who would be able to know more are not interested. And this is the scientific community. I must say, I have made a little note here because I'm tired and no, I didn't write anything else. And I might forget something. An important information to convey to you is that for the last few years, my own communicators, Rio do Tempo Station, have told me that they are working to be able to speak to everybody in our world, this world, our dimension, interested in contacting their world. What is necessary for this? If you aim at this contact, that the communicators in the next dimension, this, let's say, universal contact, are working in, so that you try the contact. So do try the contact by whatever means, always controlled conditions. Why? Because nobody will take you seriously if your background noise contains human voices, for instance. I will then show you an example where this happens, and the voice is anomalous. But, as I said, the people at large, they will not take you seriously if there is a mixture, a gibbling of voices, and in the middle of this there is an anomalous voice. You will know that it is anomalous. Nobody else will know. If you publish it in the internet, what you are probably doing is discrediting ITC. So the most controlled possible conditions. Please. Therefore, if our communicators, beloved partners of another dimension, are working to contact anybody in this world interested in their world, so that they can do it, they have to have many people trying to contact the next world. And this is what I am recommending you to do. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of my contacts, when I started receiving the direct radio voices, on a couple of occasions I asked, what can I do to help the contact? And the reply was, you may, or you can, make contact in this way. Pode fazer contacto assim, in Portuguese. I ask, what can I do in Portuguese? Of course, this is the Portuguese group at Rio do Tempo Station, as they identify themselves, and they replied, pode fazer contacto assim. I'll play this, one of these voices. It's more than one, but I will play this one. I hope you can hear. Of course, this is a voice, anomalous voice, and so, as we all know. But first you will hear my voice. How can I help to improve the contact? And then I repeat the reply 3 times. Pode fazer contacto assim.
Que posso eu fazer para melhorar o contacto?
pode fazer contacto assim. And I will again repeat it. Pode fazer contacto assim. So this said Rio do Tempo many years ago when I started. I'll give you another example of how these voices, anomalous voices, so much like a human voice background support. This was a telephone conversation of very bad quality through mobile phones, a WhatsApp conversation of 3 people, myself and 2 friends of mine in Brazil. And I asked one of them something about her profile photo. She replied, and then I say, ah, and then a masculine voice says, faz contacto, to her, because she's starting to get into ITC. I will play the whole thing to you. Sorry.
Tirando essa é uma brincadeira minha. Brincadeira, isso. Tá bom, ok. Tá bom, ok. Tá bom, ok.
At the end I say okay. She at the beginning says that was a joke of mine, this profile photo. And I say ah, and then the voice says faz contacto, the masculine voice.
Tirando essa é uma brincadeira minha. Brincadeira, isso. Tá bom, ok. Tá bom, ok. Tá bom, ok.
Of course, there are other voices, which is mine and her and and so on.
Tá bom, ok. Tá bom, ok.
Faz contacto. To her, it says, because she was trying to get into ITC to be able to experiment. So, I suppose this is all for today. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope many of you will try the contact. Faz contacto. Make contact. So this is, as you saw, what they recommend us. Thank you very much.